Thank you, Tanya. My name is Gabriel Garcia. I'm one of the board members. I'm from San Antonio. And of course, Brian's with me, our new president. I'm very happy here to begin the awards of our Community Broadband and Digital Awards for this year. So today we honor outstanding individuals and projects that identify local broadband needs and apply homegrown solutions. They do this in different ways by investing in community networks, by pursuing innovative strategies of digital equity for low-income and residential and supporting broadband expansion in rural areas. Our Community Broadband and Digital Award programs was initiated 13 years ago to recognize and highlight some of the many extraordinary efforts going on at the local level to bring the benefits of broadband technology to American communities. Exceptional leaders are finding creative and effective solutions to local broadband challenges. And this year's NATOA Community Broadband and Digital Equity Awards recognize some of these efforts and achievements. I will introduce our first award recipient. Brian will then introduce the other two. Please note that the weight of the award, you'll see when you get here, is pretty heavy. So we will be personalizing them and shipping them to each of the recipients. So let's get started. The 2019 Community Broadband Award recipients are, our first one is the Community Broadband Project of the Year. The award goes to Guadalupe Valley Electric Co-op. So Guadalupe Valley Electric Co-op had 3 exceptional broadband projects that it completed in 2018. GVEC serves the largely rural communities in the Guadalupe Valley of South Central Texas. In 2018, GVEC completed fiber-to-the-home deployments in the towns of Marion, Texas, which has a population of 1,100, and Shiner, Texas, with a population of 2,169. These cities now join the ranks of giga communities. What an exciting accomplishment that puts them now in the ranks of gig communities in the country. And they are ready now to be successful in the gig economy. In addition to this, GVEC leveraged the E-rate program and completed a fiber network for the Stockdale Independent School District. The school district serves 793 students. And just in case you think they are done, GVEC is on pace to complete a fiber network for Moulton Independent School District by the end of 2019. Moulton ISD serves 294 students. Accepting the award is Darren Schauer, Chief Executive Officer for Guadalupe Electric Co-op. Please come up here, Darren. We congratulate you on the great work that you're doing in Texas.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Gabriel and the NATOA for this award. We are so proud to be here today, and we just want to say thank you for recognizing the efforts of GVEC. I also, though, want to recognize your efforts in promoting the development of broadband throughout the rural areas across the country. We need you. We need folks who are out working and promoting the expansion of broadband to the rural areas of the country. GVEC, we've taken an active part in trying to expand the service out into our territory. It's gone quite well. We're very proud of the efforts that we've been able to make. But from a cooperative perspective, we look at this a lot like the electric industry was back in the late 1930s. Nobody would build electric service out to serve the rural areas. After years and years of effort trying to encourage folks to build out, the private entities and investor-owned type folks to build out into the rural areas, no one would do it. And we're seeing the same issue with broadband services in rural areas today. And from my perspective, in cooperatives and the municipal folks, the governmental bodies, ultimately they will have to play a role if we're going to extend these services out into the rural areas. Really, in my mind, from a cooperative perspective, there's really no one better to do that. So again, thank you so much for the award. We are honored to receive it and appreciate the recognition.
Our next award for the Digital Equity Project of the Year goes to Digital Charlotte. Launched in 2011, Digital Charlotte is based on the premise that digital literacy skills are instrumental to creating educational and economic opportunities for all. Digital Charlotte was originally developed as a component of the Queen's Knights School's master plan to strengthen digital and media literacy in Charlotte. Digital Equity provides a convening role to kind of encourage organizations to include digital inclusion. They do this through news, resources, community opportunities for organizations to deliver in their communities throughout Charlotte. As part of Charlotte's Digital Inclusion Alliance, Digital Charlotte seeks to reduce, lack of connectivity from 19% to 9% by 2026 and they've started to do this by developing a digital inclusion playbook and working with organizations throughout Charlotte and the surrounding county. So here to accept the award is Bruce Clark, the Executive Director of Digital Charlotte. Bruce, and
Thank you, and thank you to NATOA for this honor. I was completely unprepared to give any remarks, so I will be brief. But I was just reflecting on the 2 days that I've been here and the power of storytelling to bring to life the human-centered nature of the work that we do. And so I wanted to just recognize all of you and your efforts to do great work, but also to remember the individuals that we seek to impact. That's what we try to do at Digital Charlotte. Not just about profit, but about people, and not just about plans, but about improving people's lives. So thank you for this honor, and I appreciate it.
Finally today, we'd like to award the City of Huntington Beach and American Tower. They will be receiving the Community Broadband and Digital Equity Innovative Partnership Award. Together, Huntington Beach and American Tower are providing high-capacity mobile connectivity, high-quality LED lighting, and smart city enablement from the newly developed Smart Fusion poles. Designed to meet capacity challenges in dense, busy areas in the U.S., the Smart Fusion pole provides the infrastructure for wireless broadband connectivity in an aesthetically designed, energy-efficient streetlight pole that blends seamlessly into the urban landscape. When Smart Fusion poles are deployed, the City of Huntington Beach will be the first city in the country to utilize this shared wireless infrastructure technologies. American Tower's agreement with the City of Huntington Beach provides access to 200 existing light pole locations for the deployment of smart fusion poles, predominantly along the Pacific Highway in the downtown area. Please join me in welcoming to accept the award Antonia Graham, Deputy City Manager for the City of Huntington Beach.
I also wasn't prepared with any remarks, but thank you very much to NATOA for selecting our project. We're very proud of the strides that we've made with the support of our city council to implement a lot of smart city initiatives and a fiber broadband master plan and the leasing of our poles. We've been very successful, and when Phillips approached us, we definitely jumped at this chance at about 4 years ago. And the poles that you see in the slide are a little different. We've really worked with them to make them svelte and sleek. And not like some of the poles you've seen deployed in other locations, because our residents are very concerned about aesthetics. But we're really excited to win this award, and thank you very much.
Please start enjoying your lunch, and we'll have a speaker in a few minutes.
introduce our luncheon speaker. Today, we're very fortunate to have Dr. Nicol Turner-Lee, who is a fellow at the Brookings Center for Technology and Innovation and a contributor to Tech Tank. At Brookings, she researches public policy designed to enable equitable access to technology across the U.S. and to harness its power to create change in communities across the world. Dr. Turner-Lee's research also explores global and domestic broadband development, regulatory, and internet governance issues. She is also an expert in the intersection of race, wealth, and technology within the context of civic engagement, criminal justice, and economic development. She is also a widely sought expert and speaker on issues related to communications policy and MediaNet conferences. Dr. Turner-Lee was a two-time Digital Research Program Scholar as part of Time Warner Cable's Research Program in Communications, and recipient of countless recognitions, including the presentation of the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Rainbow Push Coalition in 2015, and one of the most inspiring women in media from the Alliance of Women in Media in 2014. Dr. Turner-Lee graduated from Colgate University magna cum laude and has an MA and PhD in sociology from Northwestern University. Please join me in welcoming back to NATOA Dr. Nicol Turner-Lee.
Hi, everybody. Okay, I got to do this again. I go to a big Baptist black church, and when the pastor says good morning, we do it very robustly, and then I'm not going to ask you to tap your neighbor on the shoulder and ask them, was that a chicken pot pie or a black bean soup that I just ate? Our whole table thought it was a chicken pot pie until we actually opened up the crust, right? But I'm going to try this one more time. Good afternoon, everybody. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you so much for having me. I am no stranger to NATOA. In fact, as I was sitting there talking to Tanya, my kid is now getting ready for college. And to tell you how long I have come here, my kids were in middle school, actually, when I actually started attending these conferences. So it's very good to be in the company of a very familiar organization, of people like yourselves, including your president, who are doing really great work. I also take off my hat, can't take off my braids, to the wonderful winners of those awards, because I know that this work is not easy. I started in this space as a practitioner in the Community Technology Center movement. Prior to going to DC, I built computer labs in local communities. In fact, before I left Chicago to go to DC, maybe about 15, 20 years ago, I worked for a company called One Economy, which some of you know me from there. And I also work with people like the great Gene Frick and others on Blacksburg's Village, where we were actually building computer labs in communities. So this is something that is really near and dear to my heart, and I'm happy to say that I have as much stress as you all do, but not so much, because I get to sit in the think tank now and actually take stock of what's actually happening in this space. So I'm happy to be here and to share some words with you as you all eat. Please continue to eat and to enjoy the remarks. If you don't tell me, but tweet nice things. Just put it out. I told you I have to start out with this very nice, humble approach. And again, I will sound like an evangelist because that's who I am when it comes to digital. So let me start with just a moment to sort of do a quick poll of all of you. And I think I do this every time I speak to a group, and if you've been with me before, I've done it before, and each year it gets more interesting. I want you to keep your hand up as I list out various things that you may have in your possession, and by the end of it, we're going to do a poll of how many people are still raised in their hands. Raise your hand if you have a smartphone or some type of cell phone. Keep your hand up if you own a tablet. Keep your hand up if you own a PC. Keep your hand up if you own a laptop. Now look around the room. Probably 100% of us have this, and I'm going to avoid the embarrassment. I'm not going to ask people who has 2 or 3 or 4. I'm just going to keep it to that. Now raise your hand if you go on Facebook or you use any other social media platforms? Raise your hand if you use Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Delicious. I was trying to see who was listening. Okay, it doesn't exist. Normally I throw out a dating site and that one or two people that want to admit that they're on there, everybody sort of look around and say, oh, I didn't mean to say that, I didn't think you were saying that. Well, I actually do that poll, and it's unscientific because I want everybody to realize that all of us in this room have our hands raised. And we have our hands raised for a particular reason. We can afford the access to technology. We live in places where the technology is available. We understand the value that it contributes to our life. Technology has quickly changed the way that we live, learn, earn, and yes, even love, and in ways that we could not imagine how we could actually live without it. I'm not going to do a poll, but there are some of us in this room that we have our phones right by our beds, that we would not know what to do if we could not update our airline itinerary, and our kids would actually go mad if they weren't able to do their homework because the Wi-Fi was down in the house. Place yourself now in the situation of people who I actually work with and care about, which are people whose hands never go up. They are, in fact, what we're actually beginning to see, and I'm going to share some stuff in just a few minutes, what I consider to be the digitally invisible. They are people who sit on the wrong side of the digital divide. They are, as a sociologist, I was an avid fan of Michael Harrington's book, The Other America. They are quickly becoming the other America. They cannot enjoy the benefits, the efficiencies, and the conveniences of what technology access actually gives us. And I ask you all again, when you raise your hand, to consider what it would be like to live in a world where you could not raise your hand, where you could not be dependent upon the multiple devices that you have, and where you could not use technology to do what it was intended to do, which is to solve problems. That's who we are today. Despite what we think, there are 55 million people in this country that do not have access to broadband. The primary group live in rural America. In addition to that, people who do not have access to broadband or have never touched a computer tend to be disproportionately people of color, low income, undereducated, people over the age of 65 and foreign born. People who are also less abled not only cannot benefit from technology, but we do not even make products and services that are accessible to them. This is the America in which we're carving out. And so while you have spent the conference talking about poles and pipes, I'm gonna talk about people. And I'm gonna make sure that we understand that all the work that you all do, all the great work that you do, has an end result. And the end result is actually addressing the growing digital divide. I'm a good friend with Larry Irving, who was at the U.S. Department of Commerce in 2005, and he put together this concept of the digital divide. Some of you may know Larry. When he talked about the digital divide then, he was talking about the haves and the have-nots. Do you have access or do you not? Do you have training or do you not? Do you have access to a device or do you not? My friends, I would actually argue with you right now that this binary construct of the digital divide is no longer relevant. Not only do you have to have access, but how many people in this room take an Uber? Raise your hand. A Lyft, just to be agnostic. And how many of you have a credit card or bank account that sits behind that service? Imagine if you put the unbanked and the underbanked in that shoe. They can't take advantage of those ride-sharing services. They don't have the financial collateral. And so this digital divide is so much more complex because the cost of a single mother to actually take a taxi. I took a taxi in DC the other day from Brookings all the way to the Hill. Almost cost me $30. I had to wait for my Uber because it was half that amount. But if I'm low income, I'm paying that $35 not because I have it in my pocket, but because I have no other choice. This is the state of the digital divide in which we're in. This is why, again, your work is so important. I have a shameless plug, and I'm going to tell you this is the first of many. I'm writing a book, and this book is really interesting, and I do need that little clap because I need some encouragement. It is so hard to write a book. Look, I told my daughter who's 12 the other day, if I could actually record everything that I said, it'd probably be written already because I can talk a lot. but the technology has not caught up with my voice to actually write the words. But I'm writing this book, and the book is very much rooted in what I want to talk about today. So I'm going to sort of share some stuff with you, and then I'm going to end with some recommendations that I'd like you all to take away. I've embarked on this 7-city tour as part of my book. And I've decided to get out of Washington, D.C., where I sit amongst policymakers and other pontificators to talk about digital access, and I decided to go out to the people. So my tour has taken me to some of your locations. I've been to Cleveland, Ohio, Hartford, Connecticut, Phoenix, Arizona, South Dakota, Lincoln, Nebraska is another place, Garrett County, Maryland, Stanton, Virginia, and most recently, Syracuse, New York. And when I go to these places, I don't go with my DC attire. I go with a bun in my hair and some sweatpants and jeans. And I walk up to people on the street, and I say, I'm doing a study on internet access in America. I'm not the police. I'm not a social service director. I just want to know, what is your internet access like? And this has taken me to the rural communities that I have never been to in my adult life, like Marion, Alabama. And it's taken me as far as places like Syracuse University, from which I went to school not too far from there, to the public housing development that sits less than 3 miles away from the university. And in each of these experiences, and I'm going to share some of those people in just a moment, they actually can tell me what the digital divide is like. And I think their voices and their storytelling suggest things that we need to think about as leaders that we need to be doing differently. So allow me for just a moment to introduce you to a few people that are actually contained in my book. I'm not doing a storybook, so there's no photos in my book yet, but I am telling their stories, but I want to take you down this road with me. Uh-oh, what I do wrong? Help! Uh-oh. Next slide. I talk about technology, but I got a 17-year-old in my house. I don't do technology. Remotes, I don't do it. Okay, so this first person I'd like to introduce you to is John Yoder. John Yoder is a 4th-generation farmer. He's in Garrett County, Maryland, which is the westernmost part of Maryland. And for those of you that know Deep Creek, anybody been to Deep Creek? He sits right near Deep Creek, near the city of Oakland. Garrett County is interesting because there are about 264 square miles of land, and in the town of Oakland, about 1,900 people. This is clearly a rural community. And I made it out on a very winter night to actually see the city. And I went there actually upon the invitation of a white space project that was actually happening there that Microsoft has partnered with a group called Declaration Networks, Barry Tozer. But I want to tell you about John. John is that farmer that we speak about in Washington, D.C. that needs rural broadband connectivity, and we're right. He told me he can look from the edge of his farm and see where the last mile stops. And as a result, he's not able to order equipment or make sure that there are things that he needs on the farm to do business that makes it difficult as a dairy farmer. He already knows that there's an attack against the small farmer in America, but with access, he's able to do more, be more, and give more. Forget about precision agriculture, folks. He just wants general access. That's John Yoder. Next slide. I'm going to actually ask your help in the back. Okay, next slide. That's Hartford, Connecticut. Meet Janice Fleming, who's a community activist who was born and raised in Hartford, sitting alongside Ellen Katz, who is a commissioner for the state. Ellen commissioned a study a year prior where she found out that African-American girls that live near Janice still travel to McDonald's to do their homework. Despite having E-rate in the school, the problem, and many of you have encountered this, the school is 50% vacant, and the concrete walls obstruct the ability of a Wi-Fi signal to actually resonate through that area. West Hartford, Connecticut, or not West Hartford, but this part of Hartford is about 6 miles outside of the capital. And so this woman right here has made a commitment as a community activist to figure out ways to connect her city. Next slide. That's me in Syracuse, and I'm gonna tell you a little funny story about those 3 men. Syracuse, New York is the location of the first public housing development in the entire state. The history around that. These 3 people are part of an affordable housing senior complex. The man in the middle, when I asked him about his internet access in America, he said, ma'am, I got everything. But it's all off right now because I couldn't pay that bill. The man with the hat, I got to tell you the story, and I apologize if I offend anybody. When I asked him about his internet access in America and what he's actually doing, he said, lady, I go on there for pornography and my wife knows. It's a true story. He said, put that in your book. And the gentleman with the beard, the full beard, when I asked him what he does online, he says nothing anymore. Because he's been on there so many times as a senior citizen, his identity has been stolen that he refuses to trust the medium. So as a result of that, he says, ma'am, I wait in long lines because out here these robocalls are bad. The week I was actually there, Chuck Schumer had went out there to actually talk about the robocall scams that were affecting that city. Next slide. This is West Phoenix, Arizona. My new friend, Principal Michael Woolsey. He runs a predominantly Latino school where a lot of kids of undocumented workers actually go to school there. Surprisingly, he's got a one-to-one connection where every kid in his school has an iPad. They were part of the Connect Ed initiative that some of you remember under President Obama. I was so delighted to meet Mr. Woolsey because I had never seen this part of Phoenix. I don't know how many of you have seen West Phoenix, right? Every kid knew how to code a QR code and do stories behind it. Every teacher was enthusiastic. But when we ended the interview, he said, Nicole, at the end of the day, we're still seen as a failing school. I'm a failing school because their parents don't trust technology enough to fill out an application because of the scare of being tracked. And 2, even with all this technology, I still do not meet state test standards. So I can actually energize their imagination thanks to the help of these N units. But the other problem I have is they can't take it home because they don't have access in the home. And the library, which is such a wonderful resource in which I actually visited, is about 5 miles away from the school. So the kids can't even go to that library. Next slide. And his counterpart, Marion, Alabama, you see that principal looking at that phone? Man, she is one of the baddest principals that I know. She's the principal, get this, of a K through 12 school. Marion, Alabama was at risk of losing their funding, so they combined all of the grades. So she's got one wing with the K through 5 and the other, or K through 8, and the other wing with the 9 through 12. It's like right around the corner. But every kid in her school in Marion, Alabama, where the unemployment rate is high, where people cannot find work, have an iPad. And 9 months out of the year, all of her kids actually use it. And she said the other 3 months, she finds all the kids in front of the school sitting in the parking lot in the garage using the Wi-Fi just because they don't have access, and they're connecting through their phones because they have to surrender their iPads. She wants to do more. And I was surprised. She lets these kids take those home because the iPads have the automatic connectivity so that the uncle and the grandmother and the friends could actually use it. And then let me just show you one more person. Last slide. That's me, with a whole lot of kids. And I took that picture and I share it because the woman with the glasses that was sitting behind this school in Marion, Alabama, I asked her if she was an engineer or computer scientist. I said, who are you that's actually doing this? And she said, I'm somebody who realizes without the power of technology that we're not going to change the economic trajectory of these young people. My friends, these are the faces of the digital divide. And I've got countless other stories of people that I could share, and I could sit here all day and tell you what their experiences are. Some of our policy experiences actually match with what they're thinking and what they're doing. Some of us are really way off base when it comes to the needs that we actually have to fill. But going forward, and I'll close here because unlike a Black Baptist preacher, I'm not going to keep you long. My preacher will say, I'm about to close, and it's about 50 minutes, and we're still trying to get to brunch. But I do want to leave you with 3 points as I wrap up that I think are really important as you contextualize what these faces of the digital divide look like. The first one, and I'm going to start somewhat pessimistic, and I'm going to end with some optimism, because that's what I do. The first one is, this digital divide will worsen if we don't get a handle that not having an online economy is simply demotivating people towards economic development and the future of work. Without access to technology, my friends, and without the infrastructure, the programs that actually support literacy, the whole 9 yards, we're actually creating a new generation of people, even the farmer, that are gonna become digitally invisible. I have entitled the subtitle of my book, Digitally Invisible, How the Internet is Creating a New Underclass. And by no means, and you all know rural America, John Yoder is not a poor guy. He's actually quite wealthy. But without access, he becomes extinct in this world where emerging technology is changing the landscape of farming. And so what I would first suggest to all of you as leaders, we have to figure out ways to make the digital economy much more competitive for groups like this. Without it, we actually risk our opportunity to be nationally competitive against other foreign countries. And we risk, and you all know it as people who are rooted in your local communities, of having communities of deserts of people who have no skills to go into this new economy, deserts of institutions that have no connectivity to even grow with the expanded marketplace. And we leave them, and let me leave you with this, we leave them in an analog existence. You know, when I was growing up, how many people remember running home and watching, I mean, I may look young, but I gotta admit to you, I'm a little older. There were 3 cartoons that I ran home and watched when I was a little kid. Fat Albert. Had to watch me some Fat Albert. That was when Bill Cosby wasn't in trouble. Just had to put that out there for those of you that are offended by his actions, right? The Jetsons, you remember the Jetsons? Because it was really cool, the stuff that they were doing that I could not imagine back when I was a kid was happening. And the Flintstones. And you remember, the Flintstones, Fred rode on that car with the rocks. Which one you think is living now into perpetuity? It's definitely not the Flintstones. And I can't tell you what happened to Fat Albert because I don't really know him personally. But I do know whatever was imagined through the Jetsons, the train has left the station. And so if we keep pushing people outside of a digital economy, we actually run the risk of keeping them in an analog economy that does none of us any good. The second thing that I would say is that for us to get people connected, we have to see them as pertinent parts of the supply and the demand equation. We often build it thinking that people will come. We often put up the infrastructure considering the fact that who does not want to be connected in today's world? But I've already shared with you, undocumented immigrants who will not fill out paperwork online, senior citizens that may not trust the internet for particular purposes. We have to figure out how to build a digital ecology, an ecosystem that's trusted and that brings all players to the table. I tell people in Washington all the time, it's not just about pushing, as Chairman Pai has done, supply. Let's make sure we release more access to spectrum. Let's make sure we actually do this. I think that's really important, and if you read my work, I actually am a huge supporter of infrastructure. But we also have to create the demand. We're no longer dealing with the case of the have-nots. We're talking about the knots and the knots and the knots and the knots and the knots. And as long as we continue to sort of bifurcate these audiences and not think clearly about how do we get everybody into this new ecology, we're gonna overbuild and we're not gonna have people who can afford it. I don't show you this one picture, but there's a gentleman in Stanton, Virginia, Joseph Mulgrave, who's a day laborer. Because data is the new king and not voice, he runs out of minutes halfway through the month and cannot find work. I tried to reach him about 3 weeks later, and his phone was gone. I drove down to Roanoke, knocked on his door to tell him because I had somebody who wanted to give him a computer, and I couldn't even find him. This is digital invisibility. And then I would close with the third thing that I think is really relevant to this audience going forward. How many in this room have heard of the concept of artificial intelligence? If you haven't, get up to speed because that has definitely come. Let me tell you how you actually experience it today. How many of you like to get on Netflix, watch a movie, then you're like, oh, it's Friday night, I have no place to go. What else is on? And good old Netflix says, I think you might want to watch this. And you click, yes. And then you're home all night like me watching about 5 movies because you don't know how to get up. That's part of what's called the algorithmic economy. And artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, algorithms are now driving the new digital divide. These things make our life easy because it picks our shoes, it tells us what to buy our kids, it tells me what to watch and what to eat. But when I'm low income and I'm on the wrong side of the digital divide, it can bias against me, it can over-surveil my community, it can take my face and mistake me for a burglar or a criminal, or worse than that, someone to be deported. It can do things in my ecosystem that shatter my ability to break the trajectory of isolation and poverty. For the farmer that's not using artificial intelligence tools like precision agriculture, like John told me, he'll mow that whole day only to have rain come the next time, or to miss a spot in that pasture. These technologies are so important, my friends. And I know I'm speaking to NATOA folks who get this. The aggregation and the volumes of data that we have now have the opportunity to worsen any opportunity that we've worked for. I tell people this is almost like the amplification of the types of civil rights that we all fought for as women and people in this democracy, that a computer and the automation of an experience can kick us out of a workforce while at the same time create predictions and judgments that are just not us. I would suggest to all of you that this is part of this worsening digital divide. The fact that we've got people that we've got to get up to speed on what's next in the new economy. The fact that we need to develop institutions and environments and local infrastructures that are trusted, that bring everybody together. And the fact that we need to get ahead on this artificial intelligence before the robot and the machines get ahead of us. This is the new digital divide. This is what I spend all of my time working on, and I love it. Because if nobody else works on this, we're all going to be enamored with the technology without recognizing the human cost. And so I told you that I would end with some optimism. I love technology. I've loved it ever since the first child I met at my computer lab who had to finish her homework assignment, and we got the Encarta CD. I was so happy because I didn't have to go to the library. I could, remember you all? Like, I know I'm not by myself. Who remembers the Encarta CD, right? I mean, my mom used to have that Encyclopedia Britannica every year, and when that Microsoft Encarta CD came in, I was in heaven. I love technology because I used to have these vinyl records that used to take up space in my bedroom that I couldn't put my Barbie doll, so I had to choose oftentimes between the records and this, and now I could just download a song from the cloud and have nothing. My daughter came home the other day and she said, I want some iPods. I have to admit, I don't know half of the stuff the kids are talking about. I said, what's that? She told me these are the things that just stick out your earlobes and stuff. I said, so what does that mean? You're just really not going to listen to me, right? She said, never, right? I love technology because there are things that I can do from my device that I could never imagine doing from a PC. I love technology because I can connect with old friends and family members. I tell people Facebook is like a 20-year reunion every day. And I can suggest to people, don't I look good after 2 kids? Without showing up at the reunion. I love technology for all of those reasons, like many of us in this room. It's like the garden of opportunity and efficiency. It's this garden of imagination and inquiry. But let me get back. I love technology like many of you in this room because I have technology. And unlike people who are in the garden, there's a bunch of weeds that sit on the side, or maybe they're dandelions, but they're sort of divided out of the full cultivation of what the full garden looks like. I'll leave it like this because we need to hear this message. We're all better together. And we can use the very technology that was designed at the inception of the Watson to solve the same problems today that we had yesterday. And let's not give up on the fact that every day that you build a new pole or install a new wire or figure out new fiber leads, that we're actually working closer to solve the digital divide together. So I would leave you all with this because I know I stand between the next part of this program and the next session, and for some of you an airline flight out. Keep doing what you do. Just keep doing it. And I'll keep doing what I do to make sure that we know that there are faces behind the digital divide. And those faces matter because they're the faces that we may see every day and not know the story behind it. So thank you very much for having me. I am so humbled to have spoken before all of you. Thank you. And I have to share one more thing. So Tanya called me up and she said, hey, can you come keynote? And it was on a day I was like, you know, girl, I got something else I got to do. I said, but if you can change it a little bit, I'll come. I will always come for NATOA because I started with you guys. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nicole. I know how busy you are, and when I sent her that email, she responded so fast, and I am so grateful because it is always a pleasure having her, and we appreciate that message and that call to action, and trust me, we have spent a large portion of the conference talking about how we do need to keep doing what we do, and we're trying to figure out how to keep doing that, I guarantee you. So thank you very much, really appreciate it. All right, so on to the passport drawing. I know everybody's really excited about this. We have some amazing prizes this year. So I didn't bring any with me. Everything is back at the NATOA registration desk. In particular, you know, there's a bass guitar. No one needs to be carrying that through the hallways, but we'll get right on to it. Does anybody have any to turn in? No? They're all in here? Oh. Glad I asked. Thank you. All right. I'm going to give them a stir. All right. First, we have an Amazon gift card from American Tower, and the winner is Michelle Lyons with Prince George's County. So all of our winners, you can just pick up your prizes after this. Come see us at the desk. Next, we have a $100 Visa gift card from Evolve, and the winner is David Letourneau. An Amazon gift card from Best and Krieger, and the winner is Ken Fellman. $100 Visa gift card from Blue Shape. The winner is, I wasn't going to say anything. The winner is Will Soderberg. $100 Amazon gift card from Tightrope Cablecast, and the winner is Joey Barr. And I know Nicole mentioned this, but we actually have 3 pairs of the AirPods to give away today. So let's do that. It's from NCO. The first goes to Tara Splingard, Bob McSherry, and Gil Daspit. And in addition to that, NCO also gave us a 32-inch smart TV. We'll work with you on shipping if you want to ship it home. And that goes to Jeff Luters. All right, now we have a $100 MasterCard gift card from CTC. And that is Tim Broering. And from Megatrax, we have the Bose Smart Sunglasses. I don't know if you guys saw them, but they're really cool. We have 2 pairs of those. For Linda Sees and Chad Subotka. We have another Amazon gift certificate from Moss and Barnett for Jeff Weidele? Is that correct? No, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Weidele from Henrico County. Ah, there. We have a Nokia Wi-Fi beacon from Nokia for Cheryl Brothers. And we have a red bass guitar donated by Municipal Captioning. The winner is David Baxter. We have an Amazon gift card from Rosenberger, and the winner is Debbie Bryan. We have an Owen Kine windproof umbrella from Swaggit. The winner is Kelly Nardi. And last, we have a WIA Happy Dining gift card for Howard Schussler. So every year, after we do all of our wonderful sponsor gifts, we like to give away a conference registration for Denver in 2020. So this year's winner is Nancy Gallagher. Congratulations. All right, well, it looks like I'm dismissing you a little bit early. You have some extra time before your next session, so please enjoy the rest of the day. And again, ticket table opens at 5:30 tonight.